Do you believe in medical miracles? That's the first thing Dr. Lindsay Granger said to me when we met. She was 2 years out of residency, fresh-faced, eyes like sharp glass under fluorescent light. She asked it after stitching up my uncle's split scalp at 2 a.m. in the ER, a half-joking, half-poetic line that somehow stuck. I didn't know that 8 years later, I'd be asking her a much crueler question. Do you believe in consequences? Back then, I was just a trauma cleanup specialist for an environmental response team, a job nobody respects until a meth lab explodes or a hoarder dies in summer. But she saw something in me, said I was calm under pressure. Still-eyed, she called it. I fell for her fast. Maybe because I'd never seen anyone move like her, so controlled, so fastidious, in rooms full of blood, beeping machines, people begging not to die. She was always clean, always in charge. I wanted to be someone who steadied her, someone she came home to after wrestling with death. And for a while I was. We'd been married 5 years when I first noticed the calls. Lindsay always left her phone face down. That's a surgeon's habit, ER etiquette. No distractions. But I'd never seen her silence a call mid-vibration until that night in late October, when we were watching a documentary about serial killers and eating too much kettle corn. Buzz. She looked down. Her finger hovered, then hit decline. No glance my way. Patient? I asked. No. Someone from work. And that was it. I didn't press, because Lindsay wasn't someone you pressed. You waited. She shared when she wanted to, and when she didn't, you respected that boundary. It's how our marriage worked. Until it didn't. The second red flag wasn't a call. It was the smell. Not perfume. Cologne. On her scrub top. She came home late after her night rotation, 3:14 a.m. I remember because I was half asleep on the couch, and when she leaned over to kiss me, I smelled it. A scent I knew wasn't mine. Woodsy. Sharp. Young. What's that? I asked before I could stop myself. She blinked. What? You smell like someone else's body spray. Lindsay laughed, a little too loud. Probably from a resident. One of the new interns bathes in Axe. Everyone complains. But she walked straight to the shower. Didn't kiss me again. The next few weeks blurred into careful observations. I became a scientist of routine. Her tone when she said goodbye. The time she actually left versus when her GPS pinged her at work. I planted a $40 tile tracker in her car. Then one in her purse. She wasn't going to the hospital every night. Sometimes, she'd park near a high-rise on Lexington Avenue. I waited once, in my own truck, a few blocks down, chewing on sunflower seeds until she came out. 2 hours. Hair down. Laughing. And not alone. A man, tall, blonde, younger than me by at least 10 years, leaned against the lobby door, smiling like someone who'd touched her skin recently. He didn't kiss her, but he didn't have to. I saw it in the way she touched his arm before walking away. A feather-light grace. Familiar. Intimate. My ears rang. Not with rage. Not yet. It was something colder. Clarity. I didn't confront her that night. I couldn't. I wasn't ready. I needed more. So I did what I was trained to do. I gathered evidence like it was biohazardous material. Surgical gloves. Hidden cameras. Location logs. Voice recordings when she answered the phone in another room. It became my second job. And what I found didn't surprise me, not really. His name was Dr. Milo Hartley. He was a trauma fellow, newly minted. From a legacy family, his grandfather had a wing named after him at the hospital. They shared night shifts. They also shared hotel rooms. I saw the receipts. And I recorded the hallway conversation after one of those nights. You think he suspects? He's too soft. He doesn't even ask questions. You don't feel guilty? Only when I come home, and he makes me coffee. I didn't cry. I played the recording 5 times. Then I started planning. There's a thing that happens during decontamination jobs. You stop seeing rooms as places. You see them as containment units. You learn how to clean out the rot without anyone ever knowing it was there. But this time, I wasn't going to clean it quietly. I was going to make sure everyone heard it scream. 3 weeks before the day I would finally tear it all down, I sat across from Lindsay at a cozy Italian place she'd picked out, the same one where I proposed 6 years ago. She ordered the lamb ragu, I got the seafood risotto, and we split a bottle of red she said she'd earned after this week's trauma cases. She smiled across the candlelight like nothing had changed. I had a guy come in with a screwdriver through his cheek, she said, twirling pasta. Still conscious. His tongue was split like a lizard's. You'd have loved it. I smiled. I lied. Sounds gnarly. But all I could think was, why did you tell Milo last night? Because she hadn't come home until 5 a.m. Her scrubs were wrinkled, her eyes bloodshot, and her story vague. Emergency surgical review meeting, she said. Her voice barely cracked. That was when I knew she was gone. Not just her body, her presence. She didn't touch me when she passed. Didn't ask how my day was. And when she laughed, she looked past me. Lindsay Granger, the surgeon with nerves of steel, didn't flinch during a tracheotomy. But she couldn't look me in the eye when I said, "You're everything to me." I memorized that moment like it was the last breath before a plunge. Later that night, I opened my laptop. I created a folder titled Sterile Tools. Inside, audio files, videos, GPS logs, printouts. A small arsenal, all carefully time-stamped, all ready to cut. But the real weapon wasn't evidence. It was her reputation. You see, Lindsay wasn't just sleeping with a junior doctor. She was mentoring him, supervising him, signing off on his cases. That was a massive conflict of interest, borderline grounds for termination if someone decided to file it formally. And someone would. I just had to make sure it came from the inside. So I made a call. "Hey, Tori, you still in HR at St. Evelyn?" A pause. "Yes, who's this?" "Dane Coulter, Lindsay Granger's husband." Her breath caught. "Oh, wow. Hi. I didn't expect. Is everything okay?" "No," I said honestly. "But I think you're the right person to help clean it up." The next week was the hardest act of my life. I kissed her forehead every morning. Made her toast. I let her lie. And every time she left, I watched her car on the tracker. She went to Milo's apartment 4 times that week. Each visit was under the pretense of overnight shifts. She was methodical, discreet, but not careful enough. I'd planted a recording device in the lining of her car's headrest. One of those tiny directional mics you can order online if you know the right keywords. What I heard on the final night clinched it. "Milo, he still thinks we're just doing overnights." "Lindsay, he hasn't even asked. I think part of him knows. He's just too good." "Milo, you ever gonna tell him?" Lindsay laughs. "Tell him what?" "That I've had more real conversations with you in 2 months than I've had with him in 3 years." "Milo, so I'm the upgrade." Lindsay, "You're the future." The future. Like I was dead weight. A decade of love, discarded like expired meds. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the floor of our bedroom, staring at our wedding photo. She looked radiant. White dress, soft curls, holding my hand like it meant something. And I hated how much I still loved her. But love isn't loyalty. And betrayal isn't an accident. It's a decision made repeatedly, in quiet rooms, behind closed doors. She decided. Now it was my turn. 3 days later, I invited her parents to dinner. It was a bold move, but strategic. They adored me. Her father, a retired firefighter, once told me I was the only man he'd trust to run into a burning building for his daughter. So I made lasagna. I played the role. Polished, calm, loving husband. Lindsay, to her credit, acted perfectly. Smiling, hugging her mom, pouring wine like she wasn't spending nights wrapped around another man. It made me sick. Halfway through dinner, I said, "So, I was thinking about renewing our vows this year." Lindsay actually choked on her drink. Her mother clapped. "Oh, how beautiful." "Yeah," I said. "I figured 10 years deserves a fresh start." Wipe the slate clean. Lindsay's eyes flicked toward me. A flicker of panic. I met her gaze and smiled. Let her stew. Let her wonder, does he know? Not yet, love. But soon, everyone will. I chose the hospital's holiday party as the day. December 9th. A catered, black-tie affair in the hospital's east atrium. High ceilings, glass panels, donors, and board members sipping champagne. It was where Lindsay loved to be seen. She called it networking. Perfect. I contacted the AV guy a week early. Said I had a surprise tribute video for my wife, since she was up for an internal award. No one questioned me. I was the dutiful husband. I prepared a 10-minute slideshow. Childhood photos. Medical school memories. Clips from our wedding. Soft music. A rising swell of sentimentality. And then, the switch. At minute 8:32, the screen would glitch. Cut to black. Then fade in a series of phone logs. Audio recordings. And finally, security footage of Lindsay entering Milo's building. With time and date. Layered over it. The audio of her saying he was the future. That was the moment I wanted them all to feel it. Not just shame. The collapse of an image. But this wasn't just about the party. I'd filed an anonymous complaint with HR. attached a PDF packet with every file. Their internal systems would flag it the next day. Lindsay would lose her supervisory privileges, possibly her job. And Milo? If he had any aspirations beyond being a hospital bed warmer, he'd be finished. Everything was timed. Everything was surgical. The night before the event, she lay next to me, fast asleep, her hand grazing my chest. I stared at the ceiling for an hour, wondering what had gone wrong. Wondering if, in some other version of us, she might have chosen me again. But that was fantasy. And fantasy wasn't going to make her feel what I felt. The betrayal. The indignity. The acid of loving someone who looks through you. She was going to feel it all. Tomorrow. It was snowing that night. Not the heavy kind, but the kind that floats like ash, soft, quiet, almost poetic if you didn't know something brutal was about to happen. The hospital atrium was glowing with holiday garlands and delicate string lights. People arrived in tailored suits and velvet dresses, sipping hot cider from crystal flutes. A jazz quartet played near the reception desk. Laughter and clinking glasses bounced off the polished tile. Lindsay walked in like she owned the building. Slate blue gown. Hair pinned back. Diamond earrings I bought her last year for our anniversary. She kissed 3 people on the way to the donor table. One of them was Milo. He was there, too. Black tux. Clean shave. Arrogant posture like he had no idea a bomb was ticking under his feet. When I greeted them, I smiled like I wasn't about to set their world on fire. Hey, Milo. Good to see you. Dane, you too, man, he said. Didn't think I'd see you here. He wasn't good at hiding his nerves. His voice cracked a little. He looked down too much. Wouldn't miss it, I said, handing him a bourbon. Big night. Word is Lindsay's getting the Pinnacle Award. Her eyes flashed, not joy. Fear. She was starting to suspect. I walked off before either of them could say more. 9:28 p.m. Right on schedule. A hospital board member took the mic on stage. Tonight, we're not only celebrating the holidays but honoring one of our finest emergency physicians with the Pinnacle Award for integrity and excellence. Lindsay looked surprised, then proud, then confused. She glanced at me, a flicker of something shifting behind her eyes. I raised my glass. We've got a tribute video, the board member continued. Prepared by someone very special. The lights dimmed. The screen lit up. The first 8 minutes were soft. Photos of her in med school, hugging patients, high-fiving kids post-appendectomy. She looked beautiful, compassionate, driven. The crowd clapped politely. Lindsay blushed, hand over her mouth. Then, the glitch. Intentional. Quick static. The music stopped. Black screen. Then, a call log. Her number. Milo's. Dozens of late-night entries. Milo's voice. He still thinks we're just doing overnights? Lindsay. Laughs. He's too soft. Gasps. Audible ones. People looked around, not sure if this was real. Then the footage. Her entering Milo's apartment building at 1:47 a.m., 3 separate nights. The timestamps were crystal clear, layered over it. You're the future. The screen faded. White text appeared on black. Some surgeries are clean. Some bleed. Then it cut to black. Silence. Like gravity had left the room. Then came the noise. What the F*** was that? That was Lindsay. That was real. I didn't look at her yet. I waited. Let it boil. Then she turned toward me, eyes wide, mouth trembling. You did this. Her voice cracked. I trusted you. Like I trusted you? I said. Every damn night you crawled into his sheets? Someone screamed. It wasn't her. It was Dr. Kim, head of the trauma wing, dropping her wine glass. This is a hospital fundraiser, for God's sake. Then Milo stood up. This is a private matter. Was it private when you moaned her name loud enough to wake her neighbors? I shot back. Lindsay slapped me. Open palm. Hard. The crowd gasped again, louder this time. I didn't flinch. You want to hit me? I said. Go ahead. You already gutted me once. Might as well make it a double. Now it was chaos. Milo grabbed Lindsay's arm. We need to go. But she shook him off. No. I'm not running. Then explain it. I shouted. Tell these people, tell your colleagues, why the Integrity Award winner was calling her intern babe in the back of a trauma unit. A woman near the front cried out, Oh my God, is this real? She was mentoring him. She was more than mentoring, I snapped. And then it unraveled. A board member stormed off stage. Another pulled out a phone and started making calls. People were yelling. One donor shouted, This is why we don't fund teaching hospitals anymore. Someone else cursed and tossed their program on the ground. Lindsay turned to me, eyes red, shaking. I messed up. It was all she said. Not an excuse. Not a justification. Just that. I believed her. And I didn't care. Yeah, I said. You did. I walked out. Just like that. No applause. No exit music. Just the low hum of ruin echoing behind me. Outside, snow had started falling harder. I stood under a street lamp, the flakes catching in my hair. A minute later, Lindsay followed me out. No coat. No heels. Just that gown and a look like the floor had dropped from her world. Why? She asked, shivering. Why what? Why would you humiliate me like that? I turned. Because you're not a machine. You don't get to make cuts that don't bleed. You hurt me like I was nobody, so I made sure you felt it. She looked like she might collapse. I stepped forward, calm. You saved strangers. You held their hands when they cried. You stitched up boys who got stabbed in alleys. You comforted dying men. And you still couldn't be honest with the one person who loved you when the pager stopped buzzing. She started to cry. The ugly kind. The shoulders shaking, knees giving out kind. And I let her. For the first time in months, she was the one falling apart. 3 hours after the party exploded, Lindsay was locked in a boardroom with the hospital's HR team. By 7 a.m., Dr. Milo Hartley was escorted out of St. Evelyn Medical Center, his badge deactivated, his credentials put under review pending internal investigation. No goodbye, no appeal, just gone. They called it an inappropriate relationship between supervisory and subordinate medical staff, which was polite corporate speak for sleeping your way out of the ethics manual. By noon, the department had already issued a memo. We take these allegations seriously and will be conducting a thorough review to ensure our workplace remains one of transparency, accountability, and trust. Lindsay's name wasn't in it, but everybody knew, and the staff weren't subtle about it. Dr. Kim refused to speak to her. 3 nurses walked out of a trauma prep when Lindsay walked in. A radiologist she'd worked with for 5 years looked her dead in the eye and said, "You made us all look like fools." And worst of all, Tori from HR filed a second complaint, not just about the relationship, but about her retaliation against junior doctors. Turns out, Lindsay had quietly blocked another intern's surgical rotation in order to give Milo more access. It was the nail in the coffin. By the end of the week, she was put on administrative leave. Not fired. Not yet. But when you're a trauma surgeon with a reputation for favoritism and poor ethical judgment, you're basically radioactive. Meanwhile, Milo tried to lawyer up, filed a complaint of his own, claimed it was mutual, consensual, romantic, and none of the institution's business. That might have worked if I hadn't released the full audio files anonymously to a local medical watchdog blog. They ran it under the headline, "Love, Power, and a Scalpel. How St. Evelyn's Golden Boy Got Cut." The article spread like wildfire. The hospital had to publicly address it. A donor pulled out of a grant. A medical podcast picked it up. People started sharing the video at other hospitals. One comment read, "If I ever end up at St. Evelyn, please don't let Dr. Hartley treat me unless he's finished with his boss." Savage. Accurate. At home, Lindsay moved into the guest bedroom. We didn't speak much, but I heard her cry. More than once. The first night after the fallout, I found her sitting in the bathroom, fully clothed, staring into the mirror like she didn't recognize her own face. I walked past. She didn't say a word. Then came the knock at the door. Milo. He looked like he hadn't slept in a week. Hollow eyes, stubble, a bruised ego dressed in desperation. "Can I talk to her?" he asked. I laughed. "What makes you think she wants to talk to you? She hasn't answered my calls." I thought. "You thought wrong," I said. "You're not her future anymore, remember?" He shifted. "She told me she loved me." I leaned on the doorframe. "She told me that too. Right before she climbed into your bed." He winced. I closed the door. That night, Lindsay knocked on my door for the first time in weeks. She stood there holding a photo. Our wedding day, sunlit and stupidly hopeful. "Why did you do it like that?" she asked. Her voice was soft, cracked open. "You could have left. You could have just filed for divorce. But you humiliated me." "I gave you back what you gave me," I said. Only louder. She sat on the edge of my bed, clutching the frame. "I lost everything. Then we're finally even." "Was that the goal?" she whispered. "Revenge." "No," I said. "The goal was truth. What you did wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern. A choice. One you made over and over. I just decided people should see it. She started crying again, and I didn't move to comfort her. A week later, I filed for divorce. She didn't fight it. She signed the papers in silence, her hands trembling. Then, just before I walked out of the courthouse, she looked up and asked, "Do you think anyone will ever look at me the same again?" I didn't have to think. No. But here's the thing no one tells you about revenge. It doesn't feel good. Not for long. Sure, there's the rush. The sick satisfaction. Watching liars squirm in their own lies. Watching fake smiles peel away like bad skin. But then comes the silence. The loneliness. The weight of knowing that someone you once loved, someone you shared coffee with, made love to, protected, is now a broken thing in the rearview mirror. I didn't feel clean. I just felt done. Still, I couldn't let it end there. She still had her medical license. Still had contacts. Still had defenders whispering about second chances. So I made one last move. I sent an anonymous envelope to the State Board of Medical Examiners. Inside, a printed timeline of Lindsay's misconduct, a copy of the sexual favoritism complaint, the voice recording where she calls me too soft to notice the affair, and a statement summarizing her abuse of authority over junior staff. No name, no signature, just truth. Let them decide. The envelope took 6 days to reach the State Board of Medical Examiners. It took 3 more for them to notify Lindsay. And when they did, she didn't scream. She crumbled. I came home to find her on the kitchen floor, legs folded beneath her, phone dangling from one hand, her lawyer on speaker, her sobs so deep they sounded like they were coming from underground. "They're opening a formal investigation," she gasped when she saw me. "They might revoke my license." I didn't say anything. I just walked around her and grabbed a beer. She didn't follow. Over the next few weeks, her world collapsed one organ at a time. The hospital formally terminated her. No press release, no farewell cake, just an HR escort and a box of her things shoved into her car. Medical blogs picked it up again, this time with official citations. The phrase "conduct unbecoming of a physician" circulated like wildfire. She was blackballed from every major trauma center within 500 miles. No job interviews. No callbacks. Milo disappeared. Rumor was, he'd moved to a research post in the Midwest under a different name. Ran with his tail tucked. Good. Lindsay stayed in the apartment for another 2 months. We didn't speak unless absolutely necessary. She barely ate. Barely showered. Sometimes I heard her whispering to herself through the guest room door. Practicing apologies. Practicing statements. Rehearsing for a panel that would never unhear what she'd said about the man who loved her. The state board summoned her for an ethics hearing in early February. I wasn't supposed to be there, but I was. She looked pale, underweight, her hair pulled back too tightly, like she was trying to mimic the woman she used to be. But the fire was gone. The calm surgical confidence had been replaced by something desperate. A panel of 4 sat in front of her. 2 doctors, a legal consultant, and a hospital administrator. They read her file slowly, item by item. Failure to disclose a romantic relationship with a subordinate. Retaliation against competing staff. Abuse of supervisory privileges. Conduct inconsistent with the standards of medical ethics. Then they played a recording. "You're the future." Her face drained as the words echoed in the conference room. One of the panelists, an older woman with a war general's demeanor, leaned forward and asked, "Dr. Granger, do you consider that a professional assessment of a subordinate's qualifications?" Lindsay didn't answer. Her voice wouldn't come. I watched her fold in on herself. The surgeon, the hero, the decorated doctor, become a shadow inside a too expensive blazer. They adjourned with no decision that day. But she knew. We both did. She got the letter 10 days later. Her medical license was suspended indefinitely. Reapplication barred for a minimum of 5 years pending full review, including psychological evaluation and ethics recertification. Lindsay Granger, who once performed 4 life-saving procedures in one night, couldn't legally touch a patient. She stood in our living room with the letter in one hand and her stethoscope in the other. She stared at it like it was a dead limb. "It's over," she said. Her voice didn't shake. It wasn't a whisper. It was a fact. Her future had flatlined. I turned to leave. She stopped me. "Was it worth it?" "What? Burning me down like this? Killing every part of me?" I stared at her. "No," I said. "It wasn't worth it. You were." That was the last thing I ever said to her. I moved out 2 days later. She stayed. Not because it was hers, but because she had nowhere else to go. Her parents had stopped returning her calls. Her brother told me in a half-apologetic text, "We love her, but we can't defend what she did." 3 months passed. One afternoon, I got an envelope in the mail, no return address. Inside, our wedding photo, torn down the middle, with a note scribbled on the back. "I hope you find peace. I hope I learn how." No signature, just a small coffee stain in the corner. I threw it away. I moved to Ashland, Oregon. Took a contract cleaning chemical biohazard sites for the Forest Service. Mostly quiet work, the kind no one brags about but pays steady and lets you sleep at night. I started taking therapy seriously. Stopped replaying the tape in my head. Started building something quieter, smaller, more honest. People ask me now if I'd do it the same way. The video, the exposure, the public destruction. Sometimes I say yes. Sometimes I say no. The truth is, when someone takes a knife to your heart and calls it love, you don't walk away clean. You walk away bleeding. But sometimes, if you bleed loud enough, the world hears you. And the ones who hurt you, they finally feel it, too.